countdown is over, and the 2017 hurricane season is here.
A warning means it's time to move, especially if you've been ordered to evacuate, then you just gotta go.
We're asking our residents now, be prepared now.
Southeast Louisiana is no stranger to deadly systems, and it only takes one to cause major problems. WDSU's special presentation, Get Ready Now, starts right now.
The 2017 hurricane season is here, and the WDSU weather team is ready with the latest information you need to stay safe.
We're along Lake Pontchartrain at the New Canal Lighthouse, which you might recall was heavily damaged during Hurricane Katrina. It has since been repaired and restored into a museum.
Team coverage from across Southeast Louisiana. A deadly blow has been dealt to coastal communities many times before, but there are measures being taken right now to reduce the effects of storms.
Many live outside of hurricane protection. They're being urged to get a plan early. Plus storm surge, it can be deadly. What you need to know before a storm comes knocking.
Each year we await the hurricane season forecast, but the truth is it doesn't matter if it's active or inactive. It only matters if you're prepared. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is going with a 45% chance of an above-average hurricane season. The forecast, 70% chance for 11 to 17 storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes, 2 to 4 major hurricanes. Now, last year was also an above-average season, 15 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 4 major. And even though it was above average, we didn't have one hit. Good news, we may be entering the negative phase of the Atlantic multi-decadal cycle. And you say, what? Well, that means we may have fewer hurricanes over the next few decades. As you know, we've been in a really active hurricane period. 2005, the poster year, with 28 storms, 15 hurricanes, 7 intense, including Katrina, Rita, and Wilma. But the past few years have not been as active.
We had a very quiet season in 2013. We only had 2 hurricanes an entire year. Also, 2014 and 15 were well below normal. 2016 ended up above normal, but that was characterized mostly by late season storms. It was actually very quiet through September.
We're also seeing colder waters in the North Atlantic.
When they're cold, that tends to be indicative of kind of a negative, what we call a multi-decadal cycle, so a cycle of about 25 to 40 years, that tend to be characterized by fewer overall hurricanes in the Atlantic.
This happened 1900 to 1925 and also 1970 to 1994. Now, don't get too excited. The Gulf of Mexico is its own animal. We've had major hurricanes hit Louisiana during those time periods. The tropical Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico are warm right now, and that has a lot of people concerned. The truth is, the Gulf is always warm during hurricane season, and we don't always have major hurricanes. You need the right ingredients: a disturbance, moisture, and no wind shear. Right now, a weak El Nino is possible, but not likely.
El Nino tends to increase upper-level westerly winds that tear apart storms in the Atlantic.
Otherwise known as wind shear. Unfortunately, El Nino does not play a major role in the Gulf. We've had major impacts during El Nino years, including Audrey in 1957, Betsy in 1965, Andrew in 1992, and Isidore and Lily in 2002.
When you look at active and inactive eras historically in the past, the odds of landfall really don't change much in the Gulf of Mexico.
So what's the takeaway? Well, the truth is, it doesn't matter if a hurricane season forecast is active or inactive. It doesn't matter if we're in the negative phase of the Atlantic multi-decadal cycle or not. What matters is if we are ready, is if you are ready. Because the truth is, it just takes one hurricane to make it a really bad season. So let's all get ready now.
There are many areas outside of the Army Corps levee risk reduction system, and those neighborhoods are vulnerable to extreme flooding.
And in those communities, there's a common message among emergency managers: get a plan to get out.
We're asking our residents now, be prepared now.
St. John the Baptist Parish President Natalie Rowbottom is all too familiar with the effects the hurricane season can have on areas that lie outside of levee protection. In 2012, Hurricane Isaac caused massive flooding to southeast Louisiana. In St. John Parish alone, more than 3,300 residents had to be rescued and evacuated. 7,000 homes and businesses were damaged.
But we need our residents to also have a plan, and that is, if you're able, you need to make plans to know where you're going. What's the safest route? When are you going to leave? Because we do not have levee protection, and that threat is always there.
Levee protection is in the works for St. John Parish residents. A levee protection tax was approved by voters in April to construct and maintain an 18-mile levee between the Bonnie Carey Spillway in St. Charles Parish and Hope Canal in St. John. The project, which still needs federal funding, is estimated to take between 3 to 5 years to complete.
It's really not a large cost for peace of mind, for assurance that your family and your property and your largest investments are protected.
Still, there are other areas along the coast where building a levee is not yet possible, and struggles abound with rising sea levels and coastal erosion.
We really have to monitor tidal surges and the status of our levees, because especially in the coastal area of Plaquemines Parish, naturally, we have to have enough time to where we can allow people time to evacuate.
Some of the only defense for those living near the coast involve the barrier islands. In Plaquemines Parish, local, state, and federal government officials are looking at following a model occurring in Grand Isle to rocking the barrier islands and then pumping sand on the coastal side of the island so that tidal flow doesn't cause much sediment loss.
But the barrier islands is what breaks those waves down. It starts at the barrier islands. That's the first line of defense, and then it moves inward from there.
Although for families outside of levee protection, evacuating when a storm threatens may be the only defense.
I would urge them to take the necessary precautionary measures and err on the side of caution, because naturally the last thing we'd want is loss of life.
No matter where you live, have a plan in place and get ready now.
There's a unique way that Christmas trees are being used to help restore Louisiana's wetlands. Back in March, the trees were dropped from the air into the waters of Bayou Sauvage. It's a place where many birds make a pit stop during their fall and spring migrations. This recycling project began 20 years ago as a small job and now is a full-fledged mission to help the environment. More than 150 bundles of trees were used this year. Officials say this saves these trees from ending up in the landfill, giving new life to the ecosystem.
Well, Quaylen, the only way to protect yourself during hurricane season is to be ready every year.
And one thing you should do is fill in the gaps, and that includes insurance coverage.
The first thing you want to do is check your homeowner's policy and check on your flood insurance policy and make sure both are in place and the limits are where they need to be, the deductibles are where at a level that you're comfortable with.
No matter what flood zone you're in, the message is simple. We are all at risk for flooding.
So even if you are required to carry flood insurance, you still definitely want to have it and make sure you have it at maximum limits or as high as you need to be to cover the full cost of your house and your contents.
This goes for renters too. Remember, flood insurance is separate from renters insurance.
So you need to take out a separate flood policy on just your contents. No need to insure the building. Your landlord's got that taken care of.
When it comes to coverage, timing and location can mean all or nothing.
So if you're in the process of trying to close on a house, or if you're getting insurance for a house that you already have, once that storm hits the Gulf, they're not going to write that business, so you could be left completely uncovered.
And timing is everything. There's often a 30-day waiting period after you buy flood insurance before the flood coverage takes effect. Business owners should also have a preparedness plan.
Business interruption covers you if there's a covered cause of loss to your property and you cannot work out of that location anymore. It can pay for your continuing expenses, it can pay for your lost profits, it can also pay extra expense to get you back up and running more quickly in a new location or a temporary location.
In the event that you have to file a claim, there are steps you can take to make the process a little easier.
The best advice I can give you is to do either a video inventory or a photo inventory of everything in the house. You're just going to want to go room by room, taking pictures, including opening cabinets, opening drawers, so that you have something to work off of if you do have to recreate all of your belongings.
It was here along Lake Pontchartrain during Hurricane Katrina that the water surged, overwhelming our levees, and as you well know, flooding a lot of us. The lake rose 8 times its normal level during that storm, and this lighthouse has a story to tell. The first floor collapsed. The lighthouse was eventually reconstructed and completed in 2013. It now operates as a museum and is run by the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation. It's also here that many in the New Orleans area realized the deadly impacts of storm surge.
More people die from water in hurricanes than anything else.
The public thinks wind when it comes to hurricanes, but it's really water that's killing most people.
49% die from storm surge. That's the water pushed on shore by the wind. And this has driven forecasters at the National Hurricane Center to come up with a solution to save lives.
We're worried enough about this situation that we're trying to push you into taking action.
They've studied how to best warn people of the dangers, and they came up with the Storm Surge Watch and Warning. It goes into effect this year.
The Weather Service will now be able to issue a storm surge watch and warning that's going to highlight the areas along the coast where there has the most significant risk of a life-threatening storm surge.
The watch is issued 48 hours in advance of the expected surge, and the warning 36 hours in advance.
A warning means it's time to move, especially if you've been ordered to evacuate, then you just gotta go.
They're taking it a step farther. They are going to call you.
When you're talking about cell phones going off to tell people, hey, you're potentially in life-threatening conditions, that's a powerful message.
We also have the potential storm surge map. I know it may sound confusing, but it's really just how much water is possible above the ground where you live.
We have very good elevation data in this country, so we factor that into our forecast, and now the forecast is local and specific to you and your area.
And when you look at the potential storm surge map, you're going to see yellow, orange, and red, and that's where there is a potential for flooding.
Yellow is 3 feet. That's up to my waist. Orange is 6 feet, just over my head. And red is 9 feet. And let me tell you, folks, that's a whole lot of water, and we are all flooded. Now, the maps do take into consideration the levee protection system, and that area is not highlighted.
Hurricanes can also dump a whole lot of rain. 27% of the hurricane deaths are caused by inland flooding.
We're losing a lot of people in this country because people are driving cars around flooded roadways or into flooded roadways, and that water's moving and it sweeps those cars right off the road.
The National Hurricane Center is using all the tools it can to warn you of the potential dangers. It's up to you to take the action and be safe.
Roughly 80 miles, that's the length of levees, flood walls, and floodgates in place on the West Bank. These are major keys to keeping storm impacts down. But the system only works when it's maintained. We continue our Get Ready Now hurricane special with some of the most recent work being done on the West Bank risk reduction system. A few buttons and switches make it all seem so simple, but the reality is the Hurricane Risk Reduction System is a constant work in progress. The system's so big that responsibility is naturally divvied up by the mighty Mississippi. The Southeast Louisiana Flood Protection Authority West handles the levees, flood walls, and floodgates for the greater New Orleans area on the west bank of the Mississippi River in Jefferson and Orleans parishes. Lafitte, Crown Point, and Barataria are outside of the system. But on the southern end, the system ties into the Mississippi River levee in Plaquemines Parish.
Residents down there know of a business called Captain Larry's on Highway 23. That's about the area where the system ends.
Levee inspections are critical to this operation.
The areas that are subsiding the fastest, those are the areas that are getting lifted first.
Levees in West Wego and Marrero are the latest to undergo improvements within the system. As expected, these levees settled over time, and now it's time for a boost.
We recently completed a 4-foot lift of earthen embankment on this levee to bring it back up to construction grade.
This is considered operation and maintenance, which is the responsibility of each levee district. This work is done in conjunction with the Army Corps of Engineers.
So now that these levees have been raised, the Corps of Engineers will come back and armor the levees, and that will prolong the life of the armoring product.
These necessary improvements show just how vulnerable the West Bank was before Hurricane Katrina, when little to no protection was in place.
You build a new levee, it's going to subside because of the weight weight. You have to keep building it up, and over time it compacts and becomes stronger.
Even with the massive West Closure Complex, sector gates, and ongoing work on the risk reduction system, there is one message that brings everything to a close.
The final thing to note, of course, is if an evacuation is called, the public needs to remember the system is designed to the 100-year level. There can always be a stronger storm, so if that call comes, the public needs to heed and go.
Still to come on our special presentation of Get Ready Now. When severe weather strikes, make sure you're ready. The simple things you can do now ahead of the storm.